Have you been wanting to lose weight and get healthy? Now's the perfect time to start Nutrisystem. Enjoy your favorite foods made healthier, delivered free to your door. Right now, you can get Uniquely Yours Ultimate, our most complete, foolproof plan, at an amazing price. Order today and save 50%, plus get an extra $40 off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/save and discover what millions of people already know. Nutrisystem works. Limitations apply. See website for full offer details.
Who likes saving money? Everybody. Who likes clipping coupons? Nobody. With digital deals from Stater Brothers Markets, you get all the savings and none of the clipping. It's super simple. Just go to StaterBros.com and sign up for digital deals today and enjoy that extra cash.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the program. This morning, we're going to dive right in, folks, and we're going to stick to the topic of Ghislaine Maxwell, her legal team, and now her brother coming to the forefront, trying to gaslight us and tell us about how bad her conditions are in prison. Now, we have touched on all of this stuff previously, right? We've talked about how her conditions in prison are certainly much better than most. And the fact that she has all of these ailments that she's talking about is part and parcel for being in a stressed environment. If she did not want to go through all of this, she should not have hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. She should not have engaged in the behavior that she's alleged to have engaged in. And now, when it's time to pay the piper, you want to cry and carry on about the conditions of your jail cell? What about all of these girls that you were alleged to abuse, groom, and provide for Jeffrey Epstein to abuse? Should nobody care about that? Should we all just forget about that and worry that you're not getting the lettuce wrap sandwiches that you're used to eating? Or that you can't go to one of your galas? I mean, really? There are actual people in the prisons of the United States of America who are actually innocent, who are not being treated anywhere nearly as good as Ghislaine Maxwell. And that's just the facts of the situation. You want to talk about not being treated well in jail? Try ending up there with no money. Try ending up there without one of these high-powered attorneys. Go get in trouble, and then use a public defender and see how great your life is in prison. Pretty sure you won't have a laptop. Pretty sure you won't have your own shower. Pretty sure you won't have TV every day. Pretty sure you won't have all of these things that Ghislaine Maxwell has, that her family and her legal team is crying about. These are the things that people in prison wish they had. But her brother, and her legal team have the audacity to try and gaslight you and make you think that what's going on in her incarceration is this otherworldly bout of abuse. And folks, that just is not reality. This article is from the Daily Mail. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell's brother Ian says he recognizes the setting of infamous picture of her with Epstein accuser Virginia Roberts and Prince Andrew, and does not rule out the royal being called as a witness for her defense. Well, that would be some must-watch TV, huh? We're talking insanely crazy. Imagine Prince Andrew gets called up there as a witness in the case for her defense. I mean, holy smokes. That would be something. But I have to believe that the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family would find a way to wiggle off of that line as well. So if Ian and her legal team are counting on the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family to step up to the plate and save the old bipedal serpent, well, they're going to be waiting a long time. This article was authored by Tim Stickings. Ghislaine Maxwell's brother has said he recognizes the setting of the infamous photo showing her with Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein accuser Virginia Roberts. The Duke of York has faced scrutiny over the notorious picture of him with his arm around Miss Roberts, who says she was kept as a sex slave by Jeffrey Epstein and trafficked to have sex with Andrew, a claim which the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family has always denied. Oh, well, Ben, that's the end of it, right? We should definitely listen to him. I mean, he's proven throughout history and throughout time that he is a very honorable man, that he does what he says he's going to do. He would never hang out with undesirables. So we should just believe everything Andrew has to say. Meanwhile, back in reality, he's not provided one iota of evidence to prove his innocence. Meanwhile, Virginia has provided receipts, she's provided photographs, corroborating statements. So, again, I ask you, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, when are you going to do the honorable thing and speak with the authorities? Asked whether the photo was taken at Maxwell's London home, her brother Ian Maxwell told BBC's Radio 4 Today program, "I do recognize that setting." Oh, well, thanks. That's great that you recognize the setting. No shit you recognize the setting. It's at your sister's house. You know, the place where Andrew abused Virginia, according to her? Yeah, that place. Not shocked that you recognize it. But he added that I don't know anything about the photograph other than I've seen it's been published. Well, okay, but I don't really think that means anything one way or the other. Who's asserting that you know anything about the photograph? The fact that you come out and say that you recognize the setting, well, that's all fine and well. We know that that's at Ghislaine's house. We know that that picture was taken there. And the fact that Andrew and Ghislaine and others still question the legitimacy of that picture is mind-blowing to me. You would think that a failed strategy such as that would be thrown out the window. But when you're drowning in the middle of the ocean, you will clutch on anything floating by to try and stay afloat. Andrew says he has no recollection of the photo being taken and says it might have been faked, claiming in his 2019 interview that he never went upstairs at Maxwell's home and would have been wearing different clothes to go out in London. Well, I mean, you know, you got to wear your different kit, right? You have a different kit to go out. You have a kit to wear to meet other dignitaries. What kit do you wear when you're hanging out with your pedophile friends, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? He added that he had never seen Epstein wielding a camera, making him an unlikely candidate to have taken the photo, and said that as a member of the royal family, he would not put his arm around other people when posing for pictures with them. Yeah, no, that never happens, right? Again, he's sinking himself with his own words. So what he's saying is he never puts his arm around people when he meets them, right? Because, you know, strangers, whatever it may be. Okay, so what made Virginia different? Why'd you put your arm around Virginia then, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? What made you feel so comfortable doing that, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? Again, I'm certainly not a seasoned prosecutor. I'm lucky I can tie my shoes and pair my socks, folks. But if I can punch holes in this idiot's story, you have to think that the SDNY is salivating at the chops, waiting to get a hold of this clown. Mr. Maxwell did not rule out that Andrew could be called to speak in Ghislaine's defense when she goes on trial in July, adding that he assumes she still considers the Duke a friend. Oh, you assume, huh? Have you not talked to her? Have you not asked her? Now, I assume that they're still friends, too. As far as old Joe Exotic of the Windsor family coming out in her defense at the trial, I really don't know how they would be able to pull that one off. Imagine the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family up there answering questions as a defense witness, and then cross-examination shows up, and Allison Moe and the other prosecutors begin to hammer this guy. He thought the Emily Maitlis interview was rough. Let me tell you what. Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? Meet the United States government. So if they called him as a witness, and he came willingly as a witness, that would be an epic blunder on his part, in my opinion. An epic blunder. The 59-year-old co-conspirator and fellow child abuser has been in custody since last July, when she was charged with helping Epstein to groom underage girls, which she denies. Giving a rare interview, Mr. Maxwell lobbied for her release from pretrial custody today, as he claimed she was losing her hair and struggling with her eyesight in conditions that are degrading and amount to torture. Sorry, not degrading. They don't amount to torture, and she's getting old. That's what happens when you get old. You lose your hair, you lose your eyesight. Now, don't get me wrong. Are these the greatest conditions you could possibly find yourself in? Absolutely not. I'll never sit here and make pretend that jail's fun or being incarcerated's cool. There's nothing cool about any of this. And as far as Ghislaine Maxwell's concerned, as much as I think that the prison system needs reform, as much as I think that things go on that should not be going on within the prison system, with that said, those are the rules. That's the lay of the land. That's the way it is for everybody. So Ghislaine Maxwell, her brother, her lawyers, all of these people that now want to talk about conditions in jail, that now want to talk about how rough it is to be in prison, well, guess what? It didn't just start becoming rough when Ghislaine showed up. This is jail. This is what you have to look forward to if you abuse children. This is what you have to look forward to if you're cavorting with Jeffrey Epstein and working as a co-conspirator and fellow boss. That's the message that needs to be sent here. This is the future that awaits you. Ian Maxwell, reclusive tycoon's son, who was cleared of fraud. Ian Maxwell resurfaced for a rare interview today after 3 decades of staying out of the spotlight following the death and disgrace of his tycoon father, Robert Maxwell. So this is a little blurb within the article. You know, the Daily Mail will do that sometimes. They'll have one of these little blurbs within the article that's in the color blue or whatever, and it gives you a little bit of backstory on the topic at hand. So that's what we're doing here within the article, reading through that little blurb that they got. He and Ghislaine are 2 of the 9 children of the late media baron who died at sea in 1991 after falling from a yacht called the Lady Ghislaine. After his death, it emerged that he had looted millions from the Mira Group's pension funds as his empire crumbled. Ian Maxwell and another brother, Kevin Maxwell, were put on trial in connection with the scandal, but were acquitted at the Old Bailey in 1996. The trial coincided with the breakup of Ian's first marriage to former U.S. college basketball star Laura Plum. Ian has kept a low profile since then, with the BBC describing today's interview as his first to a broadcaster for 30 years. Well, yeah, look, when you get off of what they got off with, I don't blame them for not speaking to the media. And now coming out, this could open up all sorts of old wounds. All sorts of old questions about the Maxwell family. Now, I know that they were acquitted for their alleged role within their father's looting of the pensions, but you would think that speaking to the media after all of these years is going to open up a whole bunch of other questions. Thought to have lived in Hackney in East London in recent years, he appeared in person in a BBC studio to lobby for his sister's release. But the brothers have also built up business interests outside the UK in property, telecoms, and energy, including in Russia. Oh, well, what do you know, including in Russia, huh? How many oligarchs are you involved with? How much dark, dirty-ass money from mafioso in Russia are you involved with? Again, I have no evidence of that, but when we're talking about the Maxwells, I think these are all valid questions. We're not talking about the Beavers here, okay? We're not talking about a wholesome family. Oh, shucks, Dad, how was your day today? No, we're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about a pit of vipers, literally. In 2018, they set up a think tank called Combating Jihadist Terrorism following a series of attacks in Britain. Ian married his second wife, Tara Dudley Smith, in 1999, but that relationship also later ended. Oh, well, what do you know? Surprising to me that these people can't keep a relationship. Surprising to me that they can't be with somebody else long term. Look, you can only hide your private face for so long, and that length of time shortens dramatically when you're in a serious relationship with somebody. So it doesn't shock me that all of these people have been through 8 or 9 different marriages. All right, hyperbole, not 8 or 9. You know what I mean, though. And it doesn't shock me that they have a bunch of ex-partners. Miss Maxwell said his sister remained resolute, but was being served brown water, inedible food, and monitored around the clock in grotesque conditions in Brooklyn, which he said were not the way that a democratic country should run its prisons. Yeah? Where was all of this yap, clap, trap before? Where was everybody and Ghislaine Maxwell's circle, Jeffrey Epstein, her family, all of these hotshot lawyers? Where were they all before? Before Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, talking about how bad the criminal system is, talking about how bad prison is. They were nowhere to be found, folks. And now that they're getting a little taste of what poor people have been going through for ever, they don't like what's on the menu. Well, newsflash, equal justice under the law means when you get busted, you get treated like every single one of us would. So I don't want to hear any more crying and moaning about the conditions that Ghislaine Maxwell finds herself in. You want effed up conditions? Come to Las Vegas, and I'll take you to our Skid Row, and you can tell me who has it worse. They also pointed to Maxwell's vast wealth, but her brother said she was willing to put her money under the supervision of U.S. authorities if it helped secure bail. We don't know how much money she has. That's the problem. People, oh, well, her tax return says she has this amount. Do you really think that these people are putting down all of the money in their possession on their tax returns? What do you think those LLCs are for? What do you think those offshore companies are for? What do you think all of that money laundering is for? If you don't think there's a war chest that these people have, if you don't think these people are prepared to go on the lam or hide if they have to, or use money that they haven't talked about yet or told the government about yet, you're wrong. There is no length that these people will not go to keep themselves out of trouble, folks. No length whatsoever. Had she wanted to run away, she could have run away at any point in the year after Epstein died, Mr. Maxwell said, but she remained permanently in the United States. Yeah, in my opinion, because of her hubris. She thought she was never going to get nailed for this. She thought the NPA protected her, and the dirt that she had on all the other folks would be enough of a shield to keep her out of the spotlight, to keep her from getting in any trouble, to keep her from having to face the music. It's worked for so long previously, why wouldn't it work this time? Well, this time her calculations were off. She thought that she was going to be able to slide through, and if she'd get wind if something was coming down. Well, she didn't. And now, she has to deal with it. And that's just the way it goes. All the crying, all the complaining, all the finger pointing in the world is not going to change the fact that coming up in July, Ghislaine Maxwell will be tried for her crimes. This isn't somebody who's seeking to flee. She has attachments here. She has family here. She has an entire life built by her for 30 years here. So what does that mean? Nobody's ever fled before when they've had a life built? I mean, how many people have went on the lam, folks? How many people with a lot less means than Ghislaine Maxwell have got lost in the sauce? A lot of folks. So to act like she's not a flight risk, to act like her citizenship, her connections, her money means nothing is laughable at best. Her lawyers had offered $22.5 million in bail, posted by the defendant and her husband, but the judge rejected the second bail package in December. No conditions of release can reasonably assure the defendant's appearance at future proceedings, Federal Judge Allison Nathan wrote, Ghislaine has been in prison now for nearly 250 days and counting. She is in effective isolation in a cell that measures 6 feet by 9 feet and which includes a concrete bed and a toilet, Mr. Maxwell said. That is what happens when you go to jail. All right? I don't understand what this guy's point is. If this was the only cell or condition, part of the jail where conditions were bad, you might have a valid argument. But this is just how it goes. This is jail, okay? It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to go there to be punished. You know, like when you were a kid and you get punished by your parents and they'd send you to your room, they take your video games away, your TV, all of that jazz. I know the first time I was ever really grounded, I was like in 7th grade. I had everything taken out of my room, and my dad brought in this big-ass box of books. And up to that point, I hadn't read anything besides stuff for school. So he brings in this big-ass box of books, drops it on my floor, and says, look, you're grounded for a month. You better find something to do with your time. So you know what I did? After all of my carrying on and crying and my histrionics, I dug into that box of books and found a book called Jurassic Park. And that was one of the first books I ever read. And the reason I read that was I was in prison, basically. So my point is, Ghislaine Maxwell, nobody cares, okay? Find a book. Do something with your time. Because the fact of the matter is this. You are staying there until your trial. And then once your trial comes and you're convicted, well, the place you go next, you're not going to like that very much at all either. There is no natural light. She is under 24-hour, round-the-clock surveillance with 10 cameras, including one that moves and tracks her movements. That is her existence. The water that is provided through the prison is brown, and the food that she's given is very highly microwaved and basically inedible. She is resolute, she's strong in her spirit, and undaunted. But obviously, this is very, very wearing physically. And the food thing cracks me up too. She has more money than God. Why isn't she buying stuff from the canteen? She could buy all kinds of stuff from the canteen. Maybe she should have watched some of those prison shows before she went to jail. Maybe she should have had some friends who went to prison that could have taught her how to make a grilled cheese in your jail cell. But that's what happens when you're just a smarmy ass, everything in your mouth silver spooner. You don't know anybody like that. You ain't built for this life. And when you end up in jail, it becomes, oh, woe is me. Well, guess what? See this right here? That's me playing the world's smallest violin. Nobody cares, Ghislaine. She's a 59-year-old woman, and we understand that she's losing her hair. And she's also having trouble with her eyesight and her ability to concentrate because this is a tremendous pressure to be under. Yeah. Guess what? That's what happens when you have stress. You lose hair. You get old, you lose your eyesight. That's what happens. She's going to be 60. You pretty much told us what's going on in the statement of saying she's 60. So you mean to tell me, hold on, this is breaking news here, folks. You mean to tell me that a 60-year-old woman who is under tremendous pressure, under tremendous stress, is losing her eyesight and her hair? Holy cow, what's next? Water is wet? Give me a break. Asked whether the conditions were not necessary to prevent her from harming herself, like Epstein, Mr. Maxwell said his sister has never been a suicide risk. Neither was Epstein until he was, okay? So please spare me. Say the shoe is on the other foot now, and they let Ghislaine go and have the run of the prison and do whatever she wants, hang out in general population, and then something happens to her. What then? Oh, the government let her get killed. Oh, the government was in on it. So how about we alleviate all of that, cut that shit off at the pass, and make sure that she is surveilled properly. And that's exactly what they're doing. Guess what? After she gets convicted, and she's in prison, and she's in a little jail cell, there'll be no more cameras on her, there'll be no more searches, she'll be able to fall into her routine. She'll be able to hang out with her cellie. And she'll be able to have all the yard time that she and you want her to have. Because I hope, beyond hope, after her conviction, that all of you have this much vigor for her going into general population. There are daily evaluations of her. She has shown no indication that that is her intention. She is being completely overmanaged, he said. But he added, I'm worried about her health and her ability to concentrate and to mount her defense. No human being should have to go through what she's been through. Well, guess what? That's the way the system's set up. And you know who set that system up there? Mr. Ian? I'll tell you who set that system up. People just like you, my friend. You and your sister and Jeffrey Epstein. You're the ones. People just like you who have had this system put on the books so that you had loopholes. So that only people like us, me and the audience, people that you would consider poor, have to suffer, right? Well, shoe is on the other foot for once. And guess what? I do not care. All right? Get at me when you want to talk about the whole system being fixed. Get at me when you want everybody to have a fair shake. Until then, stop whinging, stop crying, and stop complaining about your rich-ass sister. Nobody cares. It's really degrading, and in terms of the deprivation of sleep, this is not the way that a democratic country should be running its prison system. It's grotesque, and in that respect, it amounts to torture. Now, you know what torture is? I'll tell you what torture is, okay, Mr. Maxwell? I'll tell you what that is. When you have a 15-year-old girl crying in a bazillionaire's house in his kitchen because your sister and Jeffrey Epstein allegedly took her passport away and kept her on an island against her will. That's torture, okay? That's pain. That, my friend, is what fear is. So we have another one of those little blue blurbs in this article. And it says, Hellhole Brooklyn Jail compared to a third world prison. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where Ghislaine Maxwell is being held, has been described as a hellhole by a former warden and compared to a third world country by a U.S. judge. Well, what'd you think? You were going to Club Fed right out of the gate? Cameron Lindsay, a former warden at the MDC, described life in the jail as a crushing experience, especially for someone who is used to the high life. Oh, spare me this bullshit. Spare me this bullshit. So basically what he's saying is if you're poor and you ain't got no dough, you'll be able to adapt easier because your life's shitty anyway, and it's not worth anything. That's how these people feel about us. And I'm tired of it, folks. And when I say us and I say poor people again, I'm not talking about indigent people. I'm not talking about people making 30 grand a year. I'm talking about anyone who is not in their club. That is all of us, you. And if you think you're a part of their club, you better think again. You go from living a life like Maxwell to all of a sudden being strip searched and having people look into your body cavities, he said. Well, again, I'm not sitting here saying I think that the justice system is good or the way the prison system is managed is good. It's not. It's shit. It's garbage. And usually I'd be on the side of the people saying we need to fix these conditions. But when it comes to Maxwell, this shit is so hypocritical and it so misses the mark. Where was she when she had all of this money and she was out of jail working on prison reform if she cared so much? Where has Ian Maxwell been working on prison reform if he cares so much? So miss me with the BS. A New York judge once said she avoids sending women to the prison because the conditions are similar to some third world country. The prison with a capacity of 1,600 men and women has had its share of famous residents, including singer R. Kelly and farmer bro Martin Shkreli. But it has had more than its share of problems as well. In 2001, following the 9/11 attacks on New York, investigators found that guards had been carrying out a campaign of harassment against Muslim prisoners who were slammed face first into walls and told they would die. So again, where was Maxwell then? Where was Ian Maxwell then? And that's my point, folks. See, I'll never sit here and act like I think it's a good thing when the conditions in jail are shitty. They should not be. Not in this country. We should be abhorred by that. Now, it shouldn't be club fed by any means, but people should be treated with dignity, all right? People should be treated with dignity. And even the most disgusting scumbaggish amongst us should be put into a system where their living conditions aren't disgusting. But that said, when people like Ghislaine Maxwell or these other rich assholes get a little taste, and then all of a sudden they're these warriors that want reform in prison, I hate it. It makes me sick. Where were you when you were popping all them bottles? Where were you when you were eating all those fantastic $7,000 meals? As poor people were way worse off than you are for a bag of weed. So please, miss me with the bullshit. A probe was also carried out into guards accused of beating 2 inmates between 2002 and 2006. In 2018, 2 former lieutenants and a guard were jailed for repeated rapes and sexual assaults on female inmates, who make up about 3% of inmates. One woman, a Dominican prisoner in jail on a drugs charge, recalled being raped at least 4 times over 5 months while on night cleaning duty. And you think Ghislaine Maxwell has it bad, huh? You think she has it bad? This Dominican lady's in there for drugs, bro, okay? Drugs. And she's raped at least 4 times over 5 months while on cleaning duty? But Ghislaine Maxwell has it bad, right? Where were all of you when this was happening to this lady? Where was all the outcry then? My message has been clear, and my message has been consistent. The Department of Justice, shit show. Bureau of Prisons, shit show. It all needs to be reformed. But guess what? I don't want to hear shit from people like Ghislaine Maxwell about it, okay? Because before she had her toes in this water, she didn't give one damn about any of this. More recently, an electrical panel exploded after weeks of malfunctioning, plunging the jail into darkness and cutting off the heat. Inmates told the New York Times that they were left locked in their cell for 23 hours a day in almost total darkness without heat after the problem first started. And again, look, that's BS. That should not happen in any prison in this country. We need to make sure that all systems are go within these prisons. And we should be worried about rehabilitation inside of these prisons. But that's a conversation for another day. Mr. Maxwell also slammed prosecutors for allegedly failing to hand over details of the 3 accusers who were the subject of the case. Now remember, the prosecution is holding their cards close to the vest, and I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason is because more charges are coming, and they don't want to tip anybody else to their hand. So they're going to wait till the very end before this trial starts, and then it's going to be released. That is the hypothesis that I'm working under. Again, I don't have any concrete evidence to back that up, but it certainly seems to be the way we're going. His sister has pleaded not guilty to helping Epstein recruit and groom 3 underage girls for sex in the mid-1990s, and not guilty to perjury for denying involvement. She also faces civil litigation from Epstein accusers, 20 of whom are represented by U.S. lawyer Gloria Allred. Oh, good old Gloria Allred, huh? Give me a break with her as well. Another person who should be as far away from this case as possible. Now, I get it, right? People want to get they need to have a lawyer. And, folks hear Gloria Allred's name and they're like, oh, shit, all right, cool. But the people who follow this kind of thing, I don't know. There's no way, personally, that I would have Gloria Allred involved with me with anything. Also speaking to Radio 4 on Wednesday, Allred rejected Maxwell's complaints, saying it would be very upsetting to the survivors if she was bailed. A cell is not a palace. A cell is not a wealthy estate with all the things she's used to in it, she said, adding that bail should be out of the question. The court has determined that she is a flight risk, and that is a main reason why bail was denied. I am not convinced at this point that anything has changed, that she is no longer a flight risk, and I think she needs to stay where she is in custody. She can prepare for trial there, she can meet with her attorneys, and I understand that she has access to information that she can read in order to be prepared for trial. Now again, not a fan of Gloria Allred, but even a broken clock, right folks? Right twice a day, and Gloria Allred is right about this. She doesn't need to be free to mount a defense. If that was the case, then nobody should ever be in jail as they're waiting for trial, right? What makes her so special? Asked whether he wished he had intervened to end his sister's relationship with Epstein before his disgrace, Mr. Maxwell said, I wish she'd never met the man, obviously. But we don't live on the same continent. We don't have the same social life. We don't have the same friends. I'm not in the business of talking to my sister about her private life. Oh, that's convenient. That's super convenient. But you know she's innocent, huh? You haven't talked to her about her private life, but you know she's innocent. Sure, Ian Maxwell. Sure, buddy. I wonder what you stand to lose in this case. What sort of dirt does your sister have on you, Mr. Maxwell? Questioned about whether Prince Andrew could be called as a defense witness, Mr. Maxwell said, "I can't answer that. I just don't know." But asked if she still considers Andrew a friend, he said, "I don't know. I would assume that she does, yes." Can you imagine if the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family was called as a witness and the prosecution had a chance to cross-examine this guy? Oh my God. Let me tell you folks, I'm going to be there for the trial, so I really hope that this happens. Because this is can't miss TV, Prince Andrew getting trotted out as a witness. Now again, I give that like a 0.1% chance of happening, but boy, that would be something. Andrew acknowledged in his BBC Newsnight interview in 2019 that he socialized with Maxwell and Epstein over a number of years until Epstein's conviction in 2008. After Epstein was released from jail, Andrew again went to see him in New York in 2010. What he now claims was a visit intended to end their relationship. Yeah, because that's what the Prince of England does. He hops on a plane, flies for 6 hours, and goes and breaks up with his bestie, the child molester Jeffrey Epstein. What? How about, if it was me, I'd be flying over there and punching Jeffrey Epstein square in the mouth. You get me in this kind of trouble, bro? Grab him right by the shirt, punch square in the mouth. Right there in the middle of Central Park. I mean, are you kidding me right now? Fly over there to break up with him? Epstein had pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting prostitution from a minor. A minor can't be a prostitute. And served a short prison sentence in Florida under a plea deal which is now widely regarded as too lenient. Widely regarded? How about universally panned as bullshit? Can we just call it what it is, please? The prince also questioned over the notorious photograph, responding that he had absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken. Asked by Emily Maitlis whether he thought the picture was faked, he replied, "From the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph." We've already talked about the original photograph and the Kiwi photographer who looked at it and confirmed it. The FBI also looked at it and confirmed it. So please stop with the photo nonsense. We've done past that, okay? The photo is legit. The photo is real. But he cast doubt on its authenticity by saying he's never been upstairs at Maxwell's home because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. Oh, well, that explains it. So you never took a tour, huh? You never went to Ghislaine's house and she was never like, my buddy Prince Andrew, let us go on the grand tour of my Belgrave townhouse. Sure, that never happened. Mr. Bean-looking ass. He added that the clothes he was wearing in the picture were his traveling clothes, if he was going abroad rather than what he would wear out for a night in London. And asked whether Epstein might have taken the photo, Andrew said that I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my entire life. Wait, I thought you didn't hang out with Epstein that much. What do you mean your entire life? You see, folks, these stories are so full of holes that it's not even funny. And if we're picking them out and we're punching through them, can you imagine what Miss Allison Moe is going to do? In 2019, Epstein was arrested on new sex trafficking charges and killed himself, allegedly, in a Manhattan jail in August that year while awaiting trial. Maxwell subsequently went to ground, and her whereabouts were a mystery for nearly a year after Epstein's death, until she was arrested in New Hampshire last July. She is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn and faces up to 35 years in prison if convicted. Ghislaine and Ian Maxwell are two of the 9 children of the late British publishing tycoon Robert Maxwell, who died at sea in 1991. After his body was found floating in the Atlantic Ocean, an inquest found he died from a heart attack combined with accidental drowning. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. Ian Maxwell and another brother Robert were later accused of fraud relating to the collapse of the Maxwell empire, but were found not guilty. Oh, I'm shocked. I am shocked that these rich guys were found not guilty, because that never happens. Since they have kept a low profile, with the BBC describing today's interview with Ian Maxwell as his first to a broadcaster for 30 years. So it took his sister getting arrested and being held in prison to get this smarmy SOB out from underneath his rock. I can only imagine what else is going to turn up as the trial nears. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, folks, I will be back later on tonight, and we will pick up where we left off. Have a great day, everybody.
Nature makes the things we love. That's why Walmart and the Walmart Foundation are committed to help protect, manage, or restore at least 50 million acres of land and 1 million square miles of ocean by 2030.
Who likes saving money? Everybody. Who likes clipping coupons? Nobody. With digital deals from Stater Brothers Markets, you get all the savings and none of the clipping. It's super simple. Just go to StaterBros.com and sign up for digital deals today and enjoy that extra cash.